Hey, Melissa. Hey, Bryn.
Wait, what is that? Is that a bridge?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get this pulled up.
Oh.
Hey, Akasha. Yes, you are on time. I just started. I'm actually going to have Brittany and Bryn, or not Bryn, but Brittany and Melissa coming up to talk about this case with me tonight too. So wait in a few minutes, and when they're ready, they'll come up. I'm actually really excited about this one. I thought I had all my notes prepared the other day, and I went back through them this morning. Thank God I did. And I realized that I wasn't fully prepared. And so I sat down to rewrite my notes, and several hours later, I realized I was actually, I had everything. Double checked like 3 times. I am too, Bryn. I'm really excited. I'm just, I'm really excited to be back to true crime. It's, something I absolutely love, and I'm really excited. And I know Melissa already put a community post up, and I want to wait for her to come up here with me to announce it, but me and her have a huge live coming up, and I'm really, really excited. Well, thank you. And I mean that's the whole reason why we why I came into the true crime community, is because that's what what I love seeing, what I love talking about. And yes, Akasha, my daughter's watching a movie. But that's what I'm hoping that a lot of creators can, eventually kind of get back to, is true crime. Oh, okay. Did she? Okay. So, on Wednesday, we are going to be covering the JonBenet Ramsey case. And I'm super, super excited. But I'm really excited to be covering that case.
What? Sharks? Ariel. I can't.
Well, thank you for listening, Kristen. I love you, lady.
Mama, I'm getting Mishka's bad hair off.
Hey, Susie. Yes, we will figure out the time later. Welcome, KDK. Okay, well, might as well get started, I guess. So, tonight I just, decided I want to go ahead and talk about and cover the Jamison case. I don't know how many are actually familiar with this one, but it's actually very interesting. I'm really excited. So, the Jamison family, which consisted of Bobby, which is the father, Sherilyn, the wife, and Madison, which is their 6-year-old daughter, they disappeared on October 8th, 2009. They had plans of buying a 40-acre plot of land near Red Oak, Oklahoma, and living in a shipping container. They had admirations of having a peaceful life. They weren't very social. They were considered to be a little bit odd and eccentric. So they didn't, they had friends, but very few.
Mom, Carson.
But they, they just wanted to kind of go live off the grid and kind of, do their own thing. The land was only about 30 minutes from their home in Mifula. So they drove, they loaded up Madison, drove up there, and they were supposed to meet with the realtor or, the person they were supposed to be buying the land from. Well, after they, got up there, nobody had heard from them again. After about 8 days, people started, friends, family, they started to get really worried. Their truck was actually eventually found by a group of hunters on bicycle up in, the mountains. The police were notified and a search began. When the police got there, they found their abandoned truck. The truck was locked and just sitting on the side of the road.
Now, the snark black dates back to prehistorical times when humans used to sit around and stare at each other all day.
This is not what I wanted.
So they invented this snark to make fun around me.
Wait.
Hey, Melissa.
Hi. Okay. I'm still trying to figure. Okay. I'm on, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You keep doing your thing and I will interrupt you when I want.
Okay.
I'm excited about this because this is one of the cases that many, many years ago I fell down. So I remember the main points, but I'm really looking forward to hearing you get into the specifics because as you continue, it's going to pop up in my head and I'm going to remember.
Oh, I'm really excited because
it's a good one.
There's just, and I think it's not even, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. So it's not necessarily that they disappeared that makes it odd. It's I have yet to see a case where there are so many theories surrounding it.
Right.
And it brings in all the different, paranormal, which, it's really, really super interesting. But
it's really interesting.
But so the police ended up finding the truck on the side of the road. It was locked up. Well, when they got inside of it, they realized that the family dog was still in the truck. The truck had all of, their cell phones, their IDs, a GPS system, and $32,000 in cash.
Wow. So from someone on the outside, that would appear as if they were heading somewhere and weren't planning on returning. They had the dog in the car, all of the items that you would need, all the specific certificates, and that lump sum of money. Sketchy.
They were missing 8 days.
I'll be the shot.
When the police actually got into their truck and realized, they found their dog Macy, found all their, personal belongings, they conducted, they brought in drones, they brought in hundreds of volunteers on foot and horseback, which included the public, police, and they started searching to try and find, any sort of sign of the family. Nothing was found. This search ended up continuing for up to 8 months, and they finally just let it lie, let the dust settle. It actually wasn't until November of 2013 when a group of deer hunters came across their skeletal remains. The family was found laying side by side, face down in the dirt, only 2.7 miles from where their truck was located.
All 3 family members side by side, face down?
Yes.
Okay. That reminds me of execution style.
You're absolutely right, Sylvester.
Yes, Shauna, it was. The money, they had planned on going. The reason why they were up in the mountains to begin with was they were going to go and buy a 40-acre plot of land to move a shipping container up there and live in it until they could had enough money to build a home. So Bobby and Sherilyn both lived on SSI. Bobby had gotten in a car accident in 2002, or 2003, excuse me. So, which left him to live with chronic back pain. And Sherilyn suffered from bipolar disorder and was actually taking medication for it. So, their source of income was SSI. They also did not like banks. They didn't trust them. And so the majority of their money was kept, just cash. When the family was found, they were sent off to, the anthropologist because of it being skeletal remains. They were unable to determine the cause of death. When the family was, Sherilyn's, because Bobby's dad had passed away 2 months after the family had went missing. He had health problems, and so Sherilyn's mom ended up getting questioned to kind of figure out kind of like how the family dynamic was. She described the family as incredibly loving, and Bobby and Sherilyn were devoted parents to Madison. Their families are very vocal in their belief that they were victims of homicide.
Ow! It's in my chair.
You're okay. Now we come to a lot of the theories and all the speculation.
And what's hard is that that's all the information that you really know for certain. That's it. Everything else is filling in the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
Free, wish I could be. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Oh, it's the best.
She
Mommy.
absolutely loves this movie.
I wish. My
I'm
daughter
just
doesn't watch Disney movies, but I wish.
I'm just glad it's not Frozen.
Yeah.
She loves Frozen.
Mommy.
It's cute, right, Katie K? It's so cute.
Trying to get the pictures. I had them up, and I have them in an order, and it's not wanting to work.
Are you doing it on Facebook Messenger?
Yes.
Are you having trouble sharing your screen, or is it with the photos?
It's with the photos.
Okay.
But that is the area of where they were, their truck was found. I am
I can look it
actually
up.
okay, because I'm not 100% sure on that one. I just know the bodies were found 2.7 miles from where their truck was located. They actually, so when they initially got up there, it's speculated that, and according to their GPS system, they had made it to the person that they were supposed to meet with to talk about the land and kind of figure out if it, work on the the buying process.
Thanks for stopping in, Southern Lady. So good to see you. Mwah.
And I actually have a picture of kind of the layout. But they had actually they met up with the who they were supposed to purchase land from. They actually ended up driving about 15 minutes away. They stopped at what is considered the oil pit. So they stopped there. It said that they got out of the vehicle. They don't exactly know why, but according to their GPS, they walked about 15 20 minutes into the woods, and then stayed there for a little bit, turned around, and then came back to their truck. And they got in their truck, and it had moved just a little bit, only a few feet, and then it stopped. From that point, they don't know what happened, whether it was they just couldn't go anymore. They don't know if somebody stopped them to ask them a question or forced them out of the vehicle. This is where all the speculation begins. Hi, Southern Lady.
Hey, so yeah, their bodies were located less than 3 miles away from where the family's pickup truck had been abandoned, which is interesting because for 8 months they did that search, and the area of land was pretty open, if I'm not mistaken. And so it was less than 3 miles away. And I didn't find the exact distance, but all I know is that it said the family was reportedly considering the purchase of the 40-acre plot of land near Red Oak, about 30 miles from Eufaula at the time that they vanished. So, but I don't know exactly how far away the truck was to their destination point.
And see, I couldn't find that either. And see, that's another thing that's really hard, is finding out, it doesn't even tell you what time they left, what, time they got to their destination. There's no real timeline format for this case.
Right.
It's all just kind of just basic info.
Well, exactly, Susie.
It's good, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, well, I don't even want to jump ahead. Just what I was just gonna say is the condition their vehicle was left in, the fact that there was that high amount of money and their dog makes no sense, because as Trenda gets into the theories, you'll hear that there's a bunch of theories. But with the theories, when we go through them, just keep in the back of your mind that there was that high amount of money and there was their dog in the car. So when you keep that in mind and you're listening to the theories, you got to think what's plausible or not.
And they actually have some, really good theories. As crazy as they sound, once you sit back and actually think about them, they're
You know what my mom
There's some are kind of plausible.
Right.
I think it's possible. I really do.
Mom just keeps pushing.
But so they couldn't determine the cause of death.
Huh?
But the little bit that they do know, they were laid face down in the dirt side by side. It said that Bobby's skull actually had a really big hole in the back of it. But neither Madison or Sherilyn had that.
Right. And
So,
they were only able to identify them through anthropological and forensic pathological testing. They weren't even certain it was them at first. They had to do that specific testing to even confirm the remains belonged to the Jamisons. Well, that's a good theory, Susie, but that means that when they left the vehicle, they had intents to return to the vehicle, which would go against and contradict some of the theories that Trenda is going to go through.
one of the easiest conclusions that I think most people came to is that the family wandered into the woods. You know, they stopped. Maybe Madison had to go to the bathroom, or, you know, one of them may have had to. They wandered into the woods, got lost, and ended up passing away from exposure to the elements and hypothermia. Which I guess would kind of, at that point, if they had to go to the bathroom, I still don't believe they would leave their dog in the vehicle.
And why would they go 3 miles? Almost 3 miles.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I'm wondering is maybe, I mean, that theory has quite a bit of, like, plausibility to it. What if they did get lost and couldn't find their way back? They thought they were going one direction, ended up getting turned around a few times, and, you know, just kept going until they just couldn't anymore. Because I know that with Bobby's back being the way it was and him living in chronic pain, it was said that they don't, you know, they could have been moving at a much slower pace. And so...
And I get that, but then it comes down to, if we're going to play devil's advocate here and go down even with that theory, the likelihood that all 3 would die alongside each other face down is unlikely. If you were left with exposure, the truth is you would die at all different times. The child will die at one time, the mother would die at another. And so what I would assume to see is one being left in one area and then the body's kind of laying out. I would assume, you know, whoever died first would be in one area, and then the other 2 would make the attempt to try to continue getting back to that vehicle, and you'd find them in another area. But the fact that they were all laid down, execution style, face down, side by side, what's the likelihood that you're going to die from exposure face down all at the same time?
Not likely. So that kind of throws that theory out of the water.
Yeah.
Another one that was, you know, theorists theorize is that they actually, a lot of people actually go back to, they actually have a video of when Sherilyn and Bobby were loading up their truck.
Creepy video.
It is very creepy. Bobby and Sherilyn were said to be very thin and emaciated around the time that they did go missing. Many suspect possible drug use, specifically meth. according to like neighbors and people who live in the area, it said that there is a lot of drugs within that area, especially up in the mountains. Bobby actually reported I don't know if it was like a drug house or came across somebody manufacturing it. It wasn't very specific, but there was a police report made from Bobby about drugs in that area.
And that was even one of the theories before the bodies were discovered, because just with the disappearance throughout those 8 months alone, there were many theories, and one of them being possibly an issue with drugs, whether they owed someone money, something along those lines. That was one of the theories that were thrown out. But when she gets to the video, you have to remember this is the last known footage of this family before their disappearance. And there's so much regarding this video. And yes, just like Trenda said, they were very emaciated at this point, thin, weak looking, but they were almost in what appears to be a trance-like state. And this is what's so crazy about this case is you could really fall down deep rabbit holes, because there are people who straight up believe that they were not consciously there. They were mesmerized, and they're just basically going in and out of this house, packing up their truck, but they're not stopping and looking at one another throughout it. They're not talking to each other. They're just going through the movements. And it's bizarre, to say the least. This footage is bizarre.
So here's the video. There is no sound, but I'll go ahead and press play on it. Just one moment. So what are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you've noticed. I didn't notice the first time I watched it. There's actually a third person in that video.
Was there really?
Yep, because if you watch it, Bobby's wearing a white shirt, Sherilyn's wearing a yellow shirt, and there's a guy with a brown shirt. That's seen towards the end.
Oh, wait, can we watch it again?
Yeah, absolutely. Just one moment.
Because I know that it was it repeating at some point?
That's what it looked like to me.
Right.
I just noticed in the end, that's where you see the guy wearing the brown shirt.
I thought that at that time, I thought it was like the daughter in the picture, but I didn't look directly at it. So that's really interesting. Okay. Oh. I saw it, yeah. Oh, wow.
See, I didn't notice that the first time. That's interesting.
No, I didn't either.
But it is an odd video. I mean, I didn't realize that one just kind of looped a few times.
I feel
But
like there is the full video that didn't loop. Let me see if I could find it, because I swear, because if I had just watched that one, I wouldn't have said the opinion of they're like in a trance-like state. But I specifically remember watching that video, and they kept walking in and out, in and out. And usually when you're like, even if you're packing up a vehicle and you're with your boyfriend, you would stop, look at each other, like, or just when you pass one another, say something. They weren't. And that's what I remember sticking out, is that they were almost in a trance-like state. They weren't there. They were moving back and forth, but they weren't acting like normal, if that makes sense.
it does. And I believe I've seen that one, but I just can't remember where. So I'm looking to try and find it too.
Shauna says, who did they live with? All those cars. That's a good question.
I honestly believe everything that I've read, I'm pretty sure they lived just by themselves. It's very possible, and that's actually one of the theories that are out there, is that it was a kidnapping. So, and I'll pull the picture up in just a moment. But when investigators started looking, they actually found a picture on Bobby's phone that is alleged to have been taken the day they disappeared. And Madison appeared frightened. When their remains were recovered, there was a dried flower with Madison.
A dried flower.
Yes, a dried flower with her remains.
Hey, Rena.
Oh, hi, Rena.
That's so strange that a dried flower would be with her. That appears to be more something like was placed rather than there naturally.
If I can find it.
Yeah, I can't find any other CCT from this day either. That's so strange.
I really hope this isn't another situation where they like removed a bunch of stuff from like the internet.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. They do it all the time.
There was something we could do, but there is something.
Just one moment.
Don't be scared.
I had to re-find it because I guess the picture I had earlier did not send. So
You're good. Take your time.
It's everywhere.
So this is the last picture.
I'm feeling sore. And I would like to see her video. Leave me alone.
I see, and it's so funny because me and Trina just spoke about this briefly before the live. When I see this photo, I see one thing. When she sees this photo, she's open to seeing another. So I guess it really is up to interpretation. And maybe I'm more biased because I know the outcome. So when you know the outcome and you look back at this last photo, it's eerie and you think the worst. But Tenda makes a good point too. So trying to hear you explain what you think about this picture.
Okay, so when investigators found this picture, I believe they, showed Connie, which is Sherilyn's mother. Sherilyn's mom, Connie, kind of the way she explained it was Madison was a very happy, like outgoing little girl. She loved her picture being taken. She was, she always posed and was happy. She believes that she doesn't believe that Sherilyn nor Bobby took this picture of Madison. They feel that if it would have been one of them taking this picture, that she would have been happy. And so she interprets this picture as she's frightened. The way I see it, and I guess it just comes with from being a mom myself, my daughter's very outgoing, loves her picture taken, and usually poses as well. But there's also a lot of times where when she doesn't want her picture taken, she's grumpy or she's tired or, she reacts negatively to having her picture taken. So when I look at this, I don't necessarily see her being frightened. I more see her as she's, they just walked 3 miles. Maybe she's, just tired or, cold, grumpy. To me, she just looks tired and just kind of fed up and not wanting her picture taken.
And I can see that too. But if you zoom up and here, Trenda, I just sent you in the group and even more zoomed up, you could see on her face there is a marking. And I guess after hearing her family explain, because the family is going to be who's going to be able to explain it the best, right? They said that she looked frightened here. She looked frightened, and they do not believe she was with either of her parents at this point. That she believes it was someone totally different. And like I said, if you look at her face, and I sent you two, so one zoomed and then one really zoomed, you see that marking on her face, and that's what I find curious.
And see, that's a good observation because I didn't even notice that before. Mm-hmm. Hang on, let me pull up the other picture. Hi, Brittany.
Okay. Hey, Brett.
Hey, you guys. Sorry I'm late. I still can't find my earbuds. So there's that. Is there an echo?
Not at all.
Okay, good. Thank you for having me, Trenda.
Oh, of course. I love having you guys up here. I really, truly do.
Aw, I feel the same. Yeah, so there's this, exactly, Susie. Her arms are crossed off. And again, I know I might be biased because I know what the outcome is, and I know these were her last moments, so it may make me lean more towards foul play. But it's her face. And if you look to the zoomed up picture, it is not only inflamed, but it is red around the area which is inflamed, which indicates to me that this is a fresh wound of some sort. Obviously not an opened wound, but is a fresh wound, just the same way when you get a bug bite or you get a bump. In the beginning, when it first happened, it is red around that area, and then eventually it just leaves the wound, but it's no longer red because blood surfaces to the top. That's telling me that was a fresh wound of some sort.
Oh, poor baby. How old is she?
She is 6 years old.
Jesus. Hey, Bryn.
So that kind of, that actually reminds me. It's also one of the other theories and speculations that was brought up was, because to me, you're right, that does kind of look like a bug bite almost, or like a sting.
Right.
The family had a history of being allergic to bees, with them being out in the wilderness, granted, yes, it was in October, but it's a warmer climate, so it's very possible that she could have been stung by a bee.
Can you go do the zoomed up one again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because as you talk, I'm going to look at it and like observe. Yeah, perfect.
That does look like a fresh wound of some kind.
It's just
I see
very
what you mean.
big. It's very big for a bug bite, but if they did have a history with being allergic, then okay, I can understand that.
It doesn't look really, I mean, I know it's kind of blurry, but it doesn't look open, does it? It looks more like a welt or maybe
Right.
wow.
It does look kind of like a welt, because in
Hey,
the not like in the last picture it looks like a bee sting or like just a bug bite or something of some sort, but when you do zoom in it does look like a welt.
Right. And you see the area around it is red, meaning it is fresh. It's the idea that something may have been happening in this moment. These are one of her last moments alive. And the question is, was it one of her parents who took this picture? If so, was there something foul going on? Or was it something that just a kid happens to be in the moment who's cranky and whiny? Or was it someone completely different who took this picture? And that's the question. Yes, Susie, that's also something else that the family mentioned. They said it was as if she was looking at someone. And again, they're just going by what they have a feeling, and their feeling is that one of them was not her parents. At least one of them was not her parents.
Okay, from an outsider's perspective, like from somebody that knows nothing about this case, just by judging from that picture, to me, she doesn't look disheveled or upset to me. I mean, I could be wrong, but to me, like, she just kind of looks like she's about to smile and she's in the middle of talking.
And see, that was kind of my first thought too. She just, to me, she, just kind of looks fed up and like she just is tired, anxious, doesn't want her picture taken. It could be, a number of things. Just, and to kind of play devil's advocate here, with her being 6 years old, them going for a 3-mile hike or walk, what do you think, because there's obviously trees around, do you think she could have hit, like, was trying to walk next to a tree and, like, a tree branch got her cheek? Or she could have fallen?
Yeah, that's possible. But see, her eyes doesn't look like they have been crying recently. We all know that look of when they're red and puffy. But to me, and you could go back to the zoomed out photo now so we could see her actual expression. To me, what it looks like is she's scared, she's confused, scared, but probably one of her parents were there, maybe both of her parents were there trying to comfort her. So she was comforted to an extent, but she still understood that something was going on in this situation, like the same way a kid will, something's wrong here, someone is holding them hostage or someone's doing something, to where she's frightened enough to be confused, but still has her parents nearby trying to comfort her, if that makes sense at all.
It does. And that kind of brings up let me find it. So the mother has stated, so Connie, Sherilyn's mother, she actually came out and stated when she was being questioned by police that she believes that Sherilyn was put, or even Madison was put on a hit list of sorts from like a cult.
Wow.
And to quote what the mother said, if I can find the beginning part of the quote. I thought I had these in order, but I guess I don't.
It never works out that way.
Okay, here it is. So, Sherilyn's mother, Connie, told police that she believes a religious cult could be behind the killings. Here's word for word what she said to the police. Just like I said from the very beginning, I think somebody killed them. There's no way Bobby and Sherilyn would ever let anything happen to Madison unless something had been done to them. So she claimed that the family was on an Oklahoma cult list.
And what would leave them to be on an Oklahoma cult list?
And that's where it kind of gets a little interesting because hit lists were also, brought up. So at one point, Sherilyn and Bobby had actually allowed what they called a lodger to live in their home. He basically, just kind of helped take care of things, helped do the things around the house that Bobby wasn't able to because of his back injury. It was believed that he was a white supremacist. He was actually cleared of, any sort of suspicion. He was questioned by police because it was actually one of Sherilyn's friends that brought it to light. Sorry, I'm trying to find the paper. Anyway, so when it was a little bit after the white lodger, or not white lodger, but the lodger was cleared of suspicion, the issue ended up being brought up again when a documentary was aired on the ID channel about this case. A lady had called in and claimed that she herself once belonged to a white supremacist group. She also claimed to have seen a book that contained a hit list of people who members of the group had an issue with. The mystery woman further claimed that she often memorized some of the names in the book, one of whom was a Jamison's, and upon researching them at home on the internet, she would discover that many of them were a part of missing persons cases. So,
wow. And correct me if I'm wrong, but even the family mentioning that at all as a potential possibility leads me to believe the family knows of things that us, the public, may not know of, meaning were the parents affiliated or associated through drugs or through ritualistic beliefs, religious beliefs. They had some type of ties that would even lead the family to believe that was a possibility.
well, and the caller also gave details, gave some more details. She learned while listening to some of the members of the group speak in the weeks following the family's disappearance. One of the details included details of a unique insignia on Bobby's wedding ring. Another insinuation was that one member of the group had an unhealthy interest in Madison, claiming it made him feel good when he sat the young girl down on his lap, and this helped, really give credence to the kidnapper's theory.
Yep.
Oh, that's freaking disgusting, man. Oh, my Jesus.
Yep.
There is even a theory that they faked their own deaths.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you told me that she was 6 years old, and this is totally from an outsider's perspective, I'm just up here as someone that doesn't know about it and is learning. But when you told me that she was 6 years old, and just by the physical description that she has, she's prime target for the occultist. That's the type of child that they would gravitate towards, I guess. Like, that was
Hey,
where my
Carrie.
mind went.
Hey, Sandy.
They want the blonde hair, blue eyed, 5, 6 year old kid, um, in sacrificial rituals.
That is true, Brittany.
It's really scary to think about. I mean,
Terrifying to think about.
And now, actually, after sitting down and watching the video footage and seeing that third person, because it was theorized that Bobby had gone in and changed his shirt and that there wasn't a third person there. But why would he go in and change his shirt?
Unless they were being directed by a third party, they were being told what to do. And that would also account for why they were in that trance-like state. Your entire body language and energy would be different if you had someone standing there and under, being held against your will or being told to do things against your will. It wouldn't be fun and games. Your energy and your posture and everything would portray that.
So are you thinking like hypnosis or more like fear-based?
Well, some people believe, just like when Trenda was talking about this cult-like stuff. Well, it depends. You got to play devil's advocate and go around with which theory you want to apply to it. So some of them believe the parents were in a trance-like state due to whatever cult and ritualistic things they were a part of. So they were no longer consciously in their vessels, and they were just doing the movements, but they are not there. Versus, okay, well, trance-like state under fear. They're being dictated or being controlled by someone who's either out of the frame or whatever it may be. And so they are making the movements, but afraid.
That's a really good way to look at it, to consider.
It really is. And that would, really account for, the trance-like state that they were, people describe seeing them in when they watch the footage.
Except, so I missed everything until I got here because something come up with my kids. But were there drugs involved by any chance, or is there any mentioning of drugs?
A lot of people thought that there could have been drugs involved, specifically meth. But when investigators searched their home and searched their belongings, there was absolutely no evidence of drug paraphernalia, drug use, nothing.
Yeah, and even with meth, I don't think that's the type of behavior that a meth addict exhibits either. If anything, they're not going to be slow motion or not in that type of state, like a trance-like state. I was just curious for that reason.
Well, actually, with meth, you're paranoia. You have extreme paranoia. And if they were paranoid for whatever reason, they got tied up with a cult. They started getting paranoid. Did they owe someone money to the point where they packed up and left on the spot? And maybe that can account for why they got out of their car and traveled so far. Because if your paranoia is high like that, you believe someone's out to get you. You believe someone's following you. And you could make up these scenarios in your head that will leave you out 3 miles in the wilderness away from your car abandoned. Who knows?
And see, that's a really good theory too. They very well could have been being instructed via phone. As far as the possibility of a third person being involved, there's actually more speculation about that. Some people actually believe that Bobby's father was involved. 6 months before the Jamisons disappeared, Bobby filed a petition against his father, Bobby Sr., alleging his father threatened to kill him on multiple occasions. Bobby maintained his father was involved with prostitutes, gangs, and meth. He also claimed Bobby Sr. deliberately hit him with his vehicle in 2008. So Connie supported Bobby's accusations, saying that Bob had a temper and had money. She also relayed rumors of Bob Sr.'s connections to the Mexican mafia. And because of this, allegedly Bobby installed security cameras due to the threats, and the father and son had long-standing disagreements regarding finances and property. The police actually ended up clearing Bobby Sr. from being, he had a solid alibi, and he was actually very ill. He passed away 2 months after the family disappeared. But that does not mean, if we're going with, him possibly being involved and him being instructed or them being instructed via phone, that could still fit. Just because he was not physically there does not mean he could not have been involved in some way.
Correct.
They actually, the disagreement between them actually came from a gas station that they owned together. There were some issues when they were selling it, and Bobby Sr. actually, I don't know the exact details, as I just kind of read through it a little bit earlier, but he actually claimed that Bobby and Sherilyn were scammers and were scamming people. And so Bobby Sr. had gotten upset, took Bobby off his will, and put in his will that any of the money that was supposed to originally go to his son was going to go to Madison, but she wasn't going to be allowed to touch it until she was 18 or 21. So there seems to be just a lot of disagreements within the family itself.
Yeah, they're and with the lawsuit and stuff, there's clearly a history, but also keep in play that the mother had mental illness, right? She had diagnosed bipolar. And hey, Nicole, there's documented history of issues within the family, but would that be enough to actually come into play with their murders if they were indeed murdered?
It's a good question. I
just read a comment in the chat. They left their dog in the car. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, for what is it, 8 days?
Yes.
Oh my
God. And when investigators actually found their truck, their dog Macy was locked inside with all of their personal belongings, such as the cash, the phones, the GPS. Poor little Macy. I felt horrible reading it, but she was very close to starvation and was extremely emaciated.
Yeah. Which, again, if they had intentions on not returning to that vehicle, what would be the purpose of leaving all that money and leaving the dog there? The dog tells me, because why would you do that? If this was going to be a potential suicide, suicide murder, you'd either not bring the dog, or to be honest, they would probably kill the dog too.
Right. That would be an indication that if they would have just let the dog roam or something, right? Obviously, they left it in the car with full intentions of coming back. I can't think of why you would leave your dog in your car for any other reason than you were going back. I'm just trying to understand it. That's so odd.
It is really odd, and It really is. There's just so many questions. So
Hey,
share,
Nicole.
kind of to go back to the mental illness. So some people thought it could possibly be like a murder suicide situation. Sherilyn
Yep.
was known not to. She was supposed to be on medication, but she was known to not be taking it regularly. And so she would have bouts of really bad depression. She would lash out and be really angry towards just people in general, but especially towards Bobby. And so there was a lot of issues within their marriage. When the investigators searched the truck, they found that Sherilyn's handgun was missing. She had a little 22 pistol, and they also had found an 11-page, like what they considered was a hate letter directed towards Bobby from Sherilyn. One of Sherilyn's friends came out and stated that they shouldn't look too much into that letter, that was just how she coped when she was going through her bouts of depression. But with
It's just weird.
yeah, but with like the giant hole in Bobby's skull, and with the way they were laid out,
Right.
it really makes you wonder if it wasn't, possibly a murder suicide. Like maybe they went up there with good intentions, everything was going really good, they were happy, and then all it took was just one thing to kind of set the ball in motion.
Well, maybe, but again, if we're gonna sit here and play devil's advocate, let's imagine that scenario in our heads. And I know it's hard to do, but let's imagine that, right? And Sherilyn, shoots Bobby in the back of the head, and that would account for why there's that massive hole. But what would she do? Would she do the same to her daughter and then lay in between them, next to them? And how would she have unfortunately offed herself and landed in a perfect position where she was also face down, parallel to one another? What is the likelihood of that? Once all three are dead, nobody could go back and position them to look perfectly like that.
Yeah.
Hi, Nikki O'Shea.
So then that leaves, let's kind of keep that scenario in mind, but let's also go back to, a third party being involved. Let's say they decided to take them out to the woods. They forced them to go 3 miles, off the path, decided to kill them. Why wouldn't they go back and take the cash?
Exactly.
Do you think they knew? Do you think it's even possible that they knew that they had that amount of money on them? Or do you think it's just a situation? Because the way the way I read it, it was the cash was like in a brown briefcase, but it was stuffed underneath the driver's seat.
I guess it really depends on who was the person. Was it someone who knew the whereabouts of the family, knew that they were packing up, knew where their intentions were? Were they following this family closely? Was it someone affiliated in their life, whether it was with the cult, someone they owed money to, a drug dealer? I don't know. Versus someone who just happened to fall upon them. And who would also, and I know it sounds sick, right? Because if they're a killer and they're willing to kill 2 adults and a child, who would leave a dog in the car? And you'd be surprised, even a cold-blooded killer wouldn't just abandon a dog knowing it's going to suffocate and starve to death.
Very true.
I may be wrong. Just playing devil's advocate.
No, you're good. I'm listening and I'm trying to
No theory
you
makes
know,
sense.
yeah, I'm trying to come up with not
Like-
necessarily like a counter argument, but trying to for discussion's sake, and I'm coming up blank right now
I
because
know it's
that's
hard.
a really good point.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy though? That is so true. Like, how many cases have you come across where the dogs or the animals are always left unharmed, but like people have no problem taking a human out?
Well, I feel the same way. I'd be easy unless it was a kid. I'd easily
Melissa,
I'd easily be able to take a human adult out
I gotta
quicker than
go.
I'd be able to take like a dog out. Absolutely.
Really?
As if it's
Ah.
not a kid, but like a 30-year-old dude, I could take out easier than I could take out a dog. Hands down.
Okay.
I'd actually
Okay.
have to really agree with that because
Yep.
I'm an animal person big time.
Yep.
I love animals more than I do people.
Me
That's
too.
just
And
being
animals
honest.
are defenseless. You know, a
Yes.
person can fight back, an animal can't. They trust you. Yeah,
Okay,
Carrie.
baby.
And see,
Listen,
this is a good
animal.
point. Oh,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Trenda. It's not. No, I was
Oh.
just going on about the animal human thing. Let's get back to the case. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're okay. I was just reading Shauna's comment that if it was a revenge or a hit, money wasn't a motive,
It may
and
not
that's a
have
really
been
good point too.
It may not be a motive, but who would leave that money? You know, it may not have been the motive for it, but if you knew it was there, you would take it. If they knew it was there.
Yeah.
I think so. It may not have been the driving force if we're talking about foul play and someone, it was like a hit or whatever. It may not have been the motive, but they also wouldn't leave it if they knew it was there.
Okay. So since we're kind of on talking about third parties being involved and kind of odd things happening. So it's also stated that Sherilyn was into witchcraft. Neighbors and a family friend. I know. So neighbors and a family friend stated Sherilyn would refer to herself as a witch and that she would hold seances on occasion. Nobody paid very much attention to it until she started spray painting messages on storage containers, which I actually have a picture of. I just gotta find it because there's a few of them.
And again, this ties back into that trance-like state or that cult. And I'm not saying because you're in witchcraft, it has to be correlated with anything bad. There's total right ways to do it too. But some people practice the dark arts.
So there's another one. So nobody paid very much attention to her calling herself a witch until she started spray painting messages on the storage containers, such as black cats being poisoned and witches did not like when their cats were killed. She also declared someone in the neighborhood had been responsible for killing her cats. Most neighbors chose to avoid them. Well, quite honestly, most people would probably ignore that and just think, oh God, that woman's a nut job. Like, don't, go near her. But, being the true crime enthusiast that we are, what if, and this is just speculation, what if she ended up taking it a step further and decided to outright just start accusing people?
Oh, that's true.
If she came across the wrong person, started accusing them, it could have very well, pissed them
Gone
off enough.
south very quickly, yeah.
Yes, that, especially, because if my animals were coming up dead and I had, whether I had, let's say I saw somebody intentionally, hurt one of my animals, I would be very upset. I would probably go off.
At the very least.
Yeah. So say she, saw somebody do something to her cat, she went off, they got upset. It, turned into kind of like a harassment situation, and she found someone a little bit crazier than her, and they decided to off the family. I mean, I know that's really out there and a really crazy, theory.
But it's actually not, Trenda. It's actually more of a logical explanation than any of the other theories we kind of went by. An altercation that escalated, and it was a crime of passion in the moment, revenge of some sort. Think about how many people get stuck in traffic and someone cuts them off or does something simple like that, and then you hear about them legit killing them. It's
Sounds pretty
not,
logical if you ask
yeah,
me.
it's not that out there compared to the other theories. But if that was the only thing, is I could see them killing her, but not the husband and the child.
Yeah.
You read Nikki O'Shea's comment? Be suspect of anybody killing the cats.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Yes, they didn't have enough money to have a house built or have a house moved out there at that point in time. So their plan was they had, I think, like one or two shipping containers in their yard, and they were actually planning on moving one of them up there and turning it into like a makeshift home for the time being until they could get a house built. Oh, wow.
That's really sick.
Is it Luca Magnotta?
I thought he was in prison.
Yeah, it was a joke. Maybe a poor
I know.
one. Don't fuck with cats.
I watched that once, and my husband thought I was nuts. He's like, "Why are you watching this?" I'm like, "Because it's interesting."
Trenda, I was just talking about that on my live earlier because I'm planning on doing that case. I watched the actual killing video that Luca Magnotta did, and the dismembering and feeding his dog the flesh and playing with his decapitated head. I wish I didn't, but I did.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I didn't make it that far, but
you don't want to. You don't want to, trust me.
Yeah.
You can't unsee it. But I like that series too because it showed how there were people, online sleuths, that really did make a difference. I agree, Susie.
I'm really not sure about that one, Nicole. I mean, it's definitely possible. It was stated that drugs were kind of heavily used in that area, especially kind of up in the mountains where they were planning on going. But then again, the police didn't find any sort of like evidence within their home or like the area that they were in, which kind of throws that theory out the window just a little bit, but it's still very much possible. I don't think that drugs were necessarily involved, at least not for Sherilyn and Bobby.
I think it may be an option. I don't think it would necessarily be the driving force unless like I said, there may have been like a meth issue that introduce paranoia, already mental illness is at play. But again, then I resort back to the bodies being found in the conditions that they were found, lying next to one another, execution style, with Bobby having the hole in the back of his head that lead me to believe. I still can't see a scenario where if it was one of them that could be the result so perfectly.
Yeah.
And yes, Susie, there's an actual video of that.
Hi, just me. Welcome. Oh, thank you.
Trenda, I'm sorry, just because I missed it, what were the cause of death for the little girl and the mom?
They couldn't determine the cause of death for any of them. They haven't come right out or outright and said that it was in fact a bullet hole, like that, or a bullet that caused the hole in the back of his skull. A lot of people said that it could have just been from like animals, or even something as simple as the hunters that actually found them weren't like paying close enough attention and could have possibly like kick were looking straight ahead, came like accidentally stepped on him or kicked the skull or something and caused the hole.
But it's so strange, Trenda, because okay, Britt, there were 8 months out there in those conditions and elements before they were found. So the decomposition was just they were too far decomposed to be able to determine a cause of death for any of them. But there was a hole in Bobby's back of his skull. But what I don't understand is there was 8 months of searching for them, and their 3 bodies were not underground. They were not buried. They were out in the open and exposed less than 3 miles from the truck.
That makes no sense. I mean, you would think cadaver dogs or someone walking, randomly would find them before 8 months. I mean, 3 miles away from home, they should have been.
Not away
They
from
should have been
home, away
found.
from where their truck was abandoned.
Oh, where the truck was abandoned, but
Yes.
still,
I
like
know.
you have dogs that follow scent. Something's wrong here.
Yeah, here's I forgot I had this picture.
Oh, perfect.
And see, and what really blows my mind is they had tracking dogs out there when they initially started the search for them. So I mean, they had men and women on horseback, they had police, they had volunteers, they had tracker dogs, they had drones, like they had everything they needed to be able to find them if they were actually still in the location that they were found in.
Okay, so their bodies were outside.
Yeah.
Were they in the woods or a field? Like, I'm serious when I tell you I know nothing about this case. Where were they? Like, what type of area?
Well, and see, that's very possible, Nicole. I've actually kind of thought about that myself. And to kind of go back to another comment I saw, that's kind of another theory that's been thrown around, is that they did possibly stumble upon something that they shouldn't have and were killed because of it.
So, Trenda, their remains were on the edge of water. Am I looking at that right?
I'm gonna get an aerial view for you, Britt. So there was trees and stuff, but just a quick question before I send this: does the map that you have up, does it not seem like if hold on, if where the truck location was the original location. They went very far out of their way, and it seems at one point they just made a complete turnaround. Does it not seem the same to you guys? Like right where that lowest point is, the farthest point, all of a sudden they just did a U-turn and started heading back towards their original home. What made them do that total turn? Because that location they were found, they could have just went directly there. They took a very odd route out of their way if they wanted to end up in that location.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, they
Mhm.
did. They turned around to go back home.
Yeah.
And that is a odd route to take.
Yes.
Very odd.
It seems that they were heading in one location and something may have happened that made them turn around. And that's as far as they got.
Yeah, because it looks like they were even etching closer to the route that they, like, you know what I'm saying? Like they were
Yep.
trying to go directly back on the same road that they were on
Exactly.
originally.
Yes. And I sent you an aerial shot,
Okay.
Kendra, if you want to see it.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, y'all. I'm sorry. I know I'm like making you go
No,
back
don't
over it.
apologize. But I don't remember too off the top of my head.
No, I love the discussion.
Me too.
Like, I absolutely just love it. Okay, let me get it zoomed in.
That's a really good theory, Nicole. I mean, that's possible. A lot of people like to go off of the grid. So they, they run undetected when it comes to drugs and things like that. Oh, wow, that is vast. But it doesn't look like when you, okay, think of like Summer Wells or a case like that. The terrain doesn't look that rough there.
No, it's open. That's what I kind of meant. It's like an open,
Yeah.
flatter area.
I really don't know how they went undetected after seeing this. I don't understand that.
And Nikki O'Shea, I'm going to look that up, how big the search was.
After swimming a little, she came across a huge fishing net.
I didn't, that's a good theory too, Shauna.
Best friend.
That would make sense. Why the dogs didn't sniff them out.
It really is. Like I was saying, it's said to have have had a lot of like
Prince Edward was on his ship, waiting for her to reply. She had been gone
I hate using the term like drug houses and stuff, but
pulled out the magic sea dust and
a lot of them up in those mountains. So, that kind of goes back to the theory that they came across something that they shouldn't have. They tried to leave. Their vehicle was stopped and they were forced to, leave.
Meanwhile, the Little Mermaid was struggling to bring all three large fishing nets together. And she noticed that Vega and Snake were in one of these fishing nets.
And the former sheriff remarked that the briefcase could be an important clue. Indeed, both the briefcase and Sherilyn's handgun have never been recovered. So interesting.
So then, okay, so here's my question then. So the cash was found in the truck. What was in the briefcase then?
That's exactly a great question.
Huh.
But she was not successful. Snake, help me! Pull my forearm quickly! Your Majesty! Use both of your hands, you idiot!
So on this map, it would be in the kind of towards the top where the yellow pin is that says Jamison's. That is where their bodies were found. And then down in the bottom where it says Jamison's truck, that's where their truck was. So they were found 2.7 miles away from their truck. So the money was said to have come from I know it wasn't the lawsuit. When Bobby and his dad ended up selling their gas station, that's how he ended up getting the cash. They also lived on SSI, so they could have gotten a certain amount and then just kind of saved up the rest. I have not found anything, maybe Melissa has, but I personally have not found anything that states exactly how much Bobby and Sherilyn ended up getting when they sold the gas station. But
I'll try to look now more. Hold on.
hey, gamer guy.
Hey, gamer guy.
That's what I thought too. That's kind of what my understanding was that the money was in the briefcase, but I guess the cash was underneath the driver's seat. Bye, gamer guy.
The Jamisons were not known for carrying large amounts of cash with them. They were both on disability at the time of their disappearance, and where they could have gotten that type of cash is... Hold on, it cut off. Hold on.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, I'm like, now I gotta click it.
Hey, all you beautiful people in the chat, please go hit the like button and subscribe.
Thanks, Britt.
Okay, so it says they also found about $32,000 in cash. Both Bobby and Sherilyn were on disability at the time of their disappearance, and where they could have gotten that much cash or that they intended to do with it was unknown. Investigators suspected that drugs may have been involved in the disappearance and that the large amount of cash was the result of the couple either buying or selling drugs. But they couldn't explain why they would have brought their daughter along with them, and it was impossible to tell from the condition of the truck if they had left voluntarily or had been forced out of the car by someone else, perhaps leaving their belongings behind while under duress. A search party was formed, and investigators combed through miles of woods and surrounding area looking for any trace of the Jamison family. They turned up nothing. So explain to me how their bodies were laying there exposed right in front for view, and they weren't decomposed at that time. And the smell, let's be real, 8 days later is when they even initially found the truck. So they would have been sitting there and at the prime of their smell, as nasty as that is. And it was 2.7 miles away, and you're telling me they just did not find those bodies?
I'm seriously starting to lean with what Shauna said. Maybe their bodies were being held somewhere else, for a time, and then they were dumped there. But Trinda, just me asked, is there any way that someone can point on the map where their bodies were discovered?
And that's what I said, Nicole. I said, leaving the money and the dog in that vehicle tells me they had full intentions of returning to that vehicle, and or they were under duress and against their will told to get out of the vehicle to where they didn't have the option.
Thank you, just me.
Yes, thank you. And see, I'm starting to believe that too. I truly think they were forced from the truck. See, and there's actually one more really weird. Well, there's actually two more really weird theories that have been brought up in this case. So this is where the paranormal aspect comes in. Not long after the news broke of the family's disappearance, Bobby and Sherilyn's pastor came forward with details alleging that they had come to him asking questions. At one point, Bobby actually asked if he could obtain special bullets specifically for him to use against spirits he believed that were in the roof of the house.
Yes, this is the most weird part. Sorry.
They were concerned that these spirits were attempting to influence or perhaps even possess Madison. Apparently, Madison would regularly talk to an invisible presence named Emily. At some point, Bobby had also obtained a copy of the Satanic Bible. It is believed that he was planning on using it to help rid the home of evil spirits. So,
He bought special silver bullets. Can you repeat that part?
he actually asked the pastor
Yes, he did.
if he could obtain special bullets.
This is
Oh.
true, you guys. Special bullets for what? To kill demonic beings? To kill people, to kill whatever presence is outside of this realm that a normal bullet would not be able to penetrate.
Yes, Carrie, maybe it was aliens. I love it.
That's where my mind goes to the occult. Like
Yes.
They're meddling in dark magic, or maybe they practice rituals, because you're not going to buy special bullets or do anything to protect yourself from something that you've never seen. At least not in my opinion. Whether
Well,
it's hallucinations or they
And
really
that's
see me.
where the paranoia can set in. When you are on a drug, and again, it's just a theory, but when you're on a drug long term, specific drugs like cocaine, or methamphetamines, it's a paranoia that builds up. Sleep deprivation, you're not eating, you're not drinking, you become paranoid. And the fact that he would confide in his pastor, this isn't something like he was bullshitting with a friend, blah, blah. No. That means he was serious. That means when he approached his pastor, he was as serious as could be, looking for an option. That tells you where his mindset was leading up to this. They were struggling. And here comes, I'm telling you, that paranoia again. When you are on those mind altering drugs, it changes the chemistry into your brain, where they could have genuinely believed that they were being chased, they were being followed, they were being hunted down. They may have left that car under duress, but the duress may not have even been legitimate. It could have been, I don't want to say a fantasy for the lack of a better word, but all in their own mind.
I'm laughing at just me and Carrie in the chat because Carrie said aliens and just me's like, no, don't get it going. Don't even get it.
You're screwed with
It's like,
aliens. Sorry,
you
but they
know us
have,
too well.
yeah, they have such technology that goes beyond. We're defenseless. We're defenseless. That's it. Silver bullets mean Coors Light to me. Oh my goodness. But I think that is extremely significant. I think that shows the mentality of where they're at. Now, that doesn't necessarily give us the answers, but it gives us a little bit more insight of what they were thinking around that time.
Mommy,
And it pulls me back to that footage. And again, it was investigators who referred to them being in a trance-like state, going through the motions, just going back and forth. Well, what if, I mean, you could even go down the rabbit hole of what if they were being taken over by some unseen spirit or something like that, or versus what if they thought they had a mission? What if they thought they did figure out how to perform this exorcism of a sort, and so they packed up the truck and they had, and I don't know, maybe they thought they had to do something themselves, some type of self-sacrificial thing to rid themselves of this. I don't know. Now I'm just spitballing.
Well, and kind of add to that just a little bit with okay. So with Sherilyn believing, telling everyone that she was a witch, she also had bipolar disorder, so this kind of brings in the mental illness aspect a little bit. She was known to not take her medication regularly. She had bouts of depression, as did Bobby. They, had moments of fighting. Sherilyn wrote an 11-page hate letter. There was also one found at their home that just talked about death and, just dark stuff. Could they have, not only did paranoia set in, but what if, hallucinations?
Yeah.
They thought they were seeing things.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, and to find out that, and I'm not saying anything bad about, like any sort of religion, but he obtained a copy of the Satanic Bible. He admitted to read, or he had told, like Sherilyn, or told somebody that he had read the entire thing, and that he was planning on using it to help rid the home of evil spirits. Just for discussion's sake, I don't know who all believes in the paranormal. What if, say he did something wrong, didn't say something correctly or whatever, and actually did bring evil spirits within the home?
Right. He could have opened up a portal of some sort. If you're fucking around with that. And again, yeah, I guess it depends on if you believe in this type of stuff. But I've heard plenty of testimonies. And if you screw around enough and you're dabbling in that art and you're doing ritualistics, and here comes the cult affiliation ties in again. I'm sorry, but you're going, I do believe that you are opening a portal somewhat for all that bad energy and bad spirits to come through. And it doesn't mean, oh, is a boogeyman going to kill you? Versus it could start to affect your mentality and it could start to take over.
What are your thoughts, Brittany?
Brittany.
I'm here. Girl, I don't even know. I don't even know at this point. Because you can't have somebody like me with a conspiratorial slash, what is it? Like crazy mind or whatever. Because, like, naturally, I'm going to think, all right, these people are in a remote area in the middle of nowhere. And drugs may or may not be a factor, but they're dabbling in the dark magic. And the mom's accused of being a witch. And then they got bullets that supposedly kill whatever. And I'm just like, I've got two theories. One, they're either just really balls to the wall crazy and they're drugged up and just seeing shit. Or two, excuse my French, like there's something that's really like after them, that's attached to them, that they were trying to get away from and they failed miserably. Like something paranormal.
Yeah. And see, I've noticed with this, I mean, with any case really, but with this one, like, there's no answer. So literally anything is possible. And Nicole just brought up a really good point, too. That's another theory that they had. Except it wasn't a carbon dioxide leak in the house. I mean, it could have been, but there's actually speculation that the family had fallen asleep in their truck and had gotten carbon monoxide poisoning from that, which caused them to kind of be really disoriented and just out of it, caused them to possibly wander off. And
Oh, but that's another thing, Trinda. That's another thing. Their bodies, the cadaver dogs couldn't find them. Nobody could find them until 8 months later. When you hear about alien abductions and stuff, that's how it happens. Like, the bodies just kind of like think about Dyatlov or whatever. The bodies just reappear one day. So that's another reason I'm like, maybe there is something paranormal or spiritual to this. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it was stated that they were very religious. So that kind of kind of goes along with what you just said. No, just me, you crack me up. And that's awesome. Can we phone Chad Daybell about a portal? I love it.
He's at a portal in his closet. Him and Lori would go in the closet.
I think that's another case I'm gonna cover.
Please,
Like,
I love it. I love it.
You have to.
So do I. And I actually don't live that. I've actually driven past their home. Like
You should go live, Chanda. That would be awesome.
I actually thought about it.
Yes.
Because not to go completely off topic from, this case, but when me and my husband actually drove past the home, we stopped and were looking at the yard. It's not near as big as they make it look. Like when they're doing the aerial and when the news reporter was in the helicopter and they were looking over, the surrounding area. It's not that big. Like where we were parked right across the street from kind of where the fence that goes along kind of the side of the house where you can see the fire pit and the tree where JJ was buried at and where Tylee was buried at. You could see the barn. They actually ended up moving the fire pit, so it wasn't in the original place that it was at. They ended up removing all of the memorabilia and the different things that people had left for Tylee and JJ. They made them get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the family went out there and just removed it all.
Yep.
That is so disrespectful. Like I remember exactly what I was doing the day that the news broke that they found the children.
I remember the helicopter in the air with what's his name before it even got confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching when Lori and Chad were in Hawaii way before the kids were ever, like, we weren't for sure that they were dead. I remember following it since back then, and they had to pull out a whiteboard on the news, like a Lana style whiteboard, to make all the connections of what was going on.
Oh yeah, I remember because I didn't really get into it until the day that Lori was supposed to be back here in Idaho, and she was supposed to be at the health and welfare office by like 5:00 that night. I was sitting there like watching every possible update that I could and like catching up on it and reading about it. And I sat there and I like looked at my husband because he's like, what are you doing? So I explained it to him and I'm like, she's not going to show up. I already know she's not going to be there. Sure enough, she wasn't there. But, that case.
I know. I'm very passionate about that case.
Well, and it's heartbreaking. I wasn't able, because they ended up doing like 2 or 3 vigils for the children. One up in Rexburg, and then one in Idaho Falls. And I actually had planned on going to it the night that they did it, because they had like it on, on separate nights. I didn't end up going, but I watched it on the news. You would not believe. I mean, you could just drive through town and they had the ribbons put on, just all throughout town. It truly affected this community. Like, it really, truly did. Like, it hit us hard.
Yeah.
And it's just devastating.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I do not think this case is going to end in answers and or the justice it deserves, because like I've said a million times, I'm a big advocate on, in order to get justice, the truth needs to be known.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're ever going to get that truth, especially because Alex is deceased.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll definitely cover this case. And
I would love that.
We'll get into it a little bit deeper later down the road. But I could honestly see this going up, one or 3 ways, one of 2 ways. The way I see it going is that they're going to try and pin everything on Alex.
Oh, yeah. He's a scapegoat.
And I personally feel that Lori is, manipulating the system completely. I can't remember what disorder she was actually diagnosed with. I will have to go back and look. But she what it boils down to is she's just a very manipulative person. But we'll get back to that like this weekend or something. I'd love to cover it this weekend.
Absolutely. I would love that.
But no, there's actually one more really interesting theory with this one. And it actually involves other cases. So,
Woo, I'm excited.
And I thought it was really interesting. I actually have a picture, but it doesn't show all that it needs to, which kind of bummed me out. Have you heard of, I had the paper, the 35th degree latitude, or the line of tragedy?
Is that the area where crime is basically can't be held accountable? Like, you could go with murder because they can't pick a jury, because a jury has to be chosen based on, am I on the right track?
No.
Nope.
So
okay.
This one, and like I said, it doesn't show exactly what I need it to, but so it's called the line of tragedy because an entire string of brutal murders have occurred along this line. Andrea Yates, the mother who killed her children on June 20th in 2001. Another famous murder was the horrific murder of Pastor Carol Daniels, whose mutilated corpse was found propped up behind the church. Timothy McVeigh, who carried out the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma, which killed 168 people and injured nearly 700 others. And there's actually another odd disappearance which occurred on this line as well. Tommy Raymond Estep, after visiting, I still don't even know how to pronounce this, Ifula, he proceeded to disappear. Police later found his abandoned truck at a highway crossroads near Wetumpka, Oklahoma, lying on the 35th degree north latitude.
So, is it in trying to imply that there's something going on in this area.
That's kind of what I'm guessing. It just kind of stopped. It didn't really give like a full-blown explanation, but I think that's what it's implying, which I found really interesting.
Yeah. And I am a big believer in locations. I think that everywhere, well beyond just the world, like anywhere in the universe, certain locations and spots and coordinates can, I don't want to say influence you or doing, like, I'm very big in believing about portals. And right, you got the Bermuda Triangle, you got the pyramids of Giza. I think certain areas hold a certain type of energy, and I'd totally be open to the idea of, is there something going on in these areas that could be potentially driving these people mad?
Oh, I agree fully. I mean, I don't know. It's just too much of a coincidence. And I would have honestly never thought of it. I don't know. It's just crazy. This whole case, it just is mind-blowing.
Yep, it really is.
Because like I said at the beginning, this is the first case that I've actually looked into that has such a broad spectrum of theories involved. And they all, in their own way, kind of tie together, if that makes sense.
Yep. Oh, Nikki, I love your new avatar picture, by the way. I didn't realize. Yes. What about, right? What's the movie called with Julia Roberts? About the water contamination and what that did. Oh crap! What's the name of it?
I don't remember. I know
Aaron Brockovich. It's a true
Yes.
story. Absolutely, I think things like that could absolutely be an influence. I swear something's going on in the air in Colorado. I swear.
Definitely.
There's something
I
going
actually had that conversation with my friend this morning.
Oh,
we were
really?
on the phone. Yeah, we were
That's
on
so
the phone
funny.
for like an hour and a half. We were sitting there talking, and he was actually telling me about a podcast that he listens to, that Small Town Murder.
Oh, okay.
And we got on the topic, of just true crime in general. And I said the exact same thing. I'm like, there is something crazy going on in
Yep.
Colorado.
You got the Gannon, you got the Daybell, you got the Watts, you got so much. You have the Love Is One. You have so many things going on in Colorado, and it's just so, what's happening, And it's usually these high profile cases. So you hear Colorado, and I'm like, is it the altitude that's different? Is it the air? Is it the water? What the hell's going on in Colorado?
Well, and I don't want to think it's the altitude because I don't live that far. I'm like almost next door neighbors with Colorado.
Oh, no. Oh, and there's weird ass clouds in Colorado. See, I'm big on that, Nicole. What if Colorado is an area that HARP is what creates the weather, literally? What if they're doing some type of experiments, or if that's the area that they're most doing trials on, and it's having these adverse effects on the residents?
Yes, the Denver airport. I actually need to go back and watch your live that you did on it because
good.
I ended up missing it. I can't remember. I think I fell asleep or something was going on.
Something happened. Life.
I need to go back and watch it because that one's really interesting too.
It was so
Brittany's
good.
back. Hi, Brittany.
Hey,
Hi,
sorry about that. Y'all take a shot?
I took a virtual shot. Yes, I did.
We still talking about the case?
Yeah.
Oh, we got distracted a little bit. Well, okay, so if you guys had to, from what we know so far, and I know you can continue to go down very deep theories, and again, I think that would be a great idea to even start hitting Reddit the same way what we did with the Rebecca Zahau case, like dedicate a live to straight up theories. But if you could judge with what the information you know now, what do you think is the most logical explanation? Don't all jump at once, though, okay? It's either Brittany or Trenda. One
I'm
at a time.
I'm thinking because, like I said,
Nicole.
there's so many theories, and they all kind of tie together in their own ways,
Yes,
and so it's really hard to decide on just one.
I know.
I can think of at least 2 or 3 plausible theories that would
Give it
fit.
to us. Give it to us.
So, to go along with the drug theory, I definitely think it's possible that that meth could have been involved, or really any drug, you know. Mix that in with their I absolutely hate saying, you know, like, mix that in with our mental illness.
I know.
But if you were to mix those two together and then add in a third party, I honestly think that they either came across something that they shouldn't have, or it was a drug deal gone bad, or, you know, just anything involving drugs.
Yes.
You know, even if you were to throw in the scammer theory that Bobby Sr. talked about, what if they, let's say they were to sell something, got the money, or, just scammed somebody. If that's going to make a lot of people mad, if drugs are involved, they're going to come back and want either their money or their drugs.
Yeah. And that's really what I'm leaning towards. I think there was some type of, let's be real, they were living on Social Security disability. That is very limited income. For them to have that amount of cash on them, I think they were both using and selling, whether that's muling, transporting, basically working off their debts and something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it contributed to paranoia. Like you say, you have mental illness, and that's not lumping, I have mental illness, that's not blaming mental illness. It's just a factor, if it's untreated, to what can contribute to a really bad, being in a really bad mental state. So paranoia, drug use, and probably dealing in illegal activities, which ultimately ended to their demise. It probably started off with having to deal directly with the parents, and then what do? Leave the kid, left with no other option except to take them all out. And that's the best possible theory I have.
That poor little girl, man.
Yes.
Nicole, I need to pick your brain on those clouds in Colorado because you're the only other one that I've seen mention that. And girl, when I was watching the evidence on the Watts case and all the videos, I was the one that was peering over their shoulders at all the clouds, like while everybody else was watching what was going on. There's something very wrong with the clouds in Colorado. Very wrong.
Well, dang it! Now I'm gonna have to go back on
Now
Watts
we're gonna
Island and look at
Girl,
the clouds.
all you have to do is watch like Shanann's videos, like where she's on the back deck talking, like doing her little Facebook lives, or the footage where what's that couple's name that was with Chris after Shanann died? The Thayers. The footage where the Thayers are out in the front yard while the cops are searching the house. And look at the clouds behind them. And look at the clouds behind Shanann on her videos. It's creepy. It's real creepy.
I'm definitely going to have to do that. We might have to spend tonight discussing clouds.
Yes,
I'm down, girl.
because I wanted to do a friggin' live on HARP just in general. But I'm excited. Like, let's get into it, because I have so many videos of things. Okay, basically, and not to go off topic, but there excuse me, are crafts that mimic clouds. And I'm not saying that that's what's in Colorado. That could just be harp and man-made clouds, and that would be the difference of why does it look off like that. But there are crafts that are able to camouflage as clouds. Okay, it's anti-gravity, and it's some type of shielding mechanism where it basically acts like a mirror. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it's not invisible, but it has the shield around it to where it will reflect whatever is near it. And that would account for these jagged, weird looking clouds, because it wouldn't be a perfect reflection. It would be a reflection based on the shape of the craft. Did that make sense, or did I sound really crazy? Probably really crazy. Let me take my tinfoil hat off.
Makes perfect sense to me.
No, that's actually really interesting. And it kind of takes me back to Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
You know, talking about the radiation and how that one I can't even think right now, but the one hill that a lot of the crazy stuff was happening on.
Yep. I remember. I don't just remember the name of it.
It looks like we're gonna have to revisit a few different things.
Yes. What I
I'm
love the
here for it.
most is having just panels where there is no specific topic, but we could just bounce around with all these discussions, because that's what I love. And then you find similarities in certain cases or certain situations that, well, I didn't ever think about it like this. And if you take this and you tie it in, like you just said with Skinwalker Ranch, well, what would that mean? That's the best conversations.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's why we do so well when we don't pre-plan a whole lot, Melissa, because that's usually what
Yes.
ends up happening.
Yep.
But I'm excited for John Benet Ramsey. Now that you mentioned you're gonna do freaking the Daybell case, I got to be here for that one because I can actually jive with you on it because I kept up with that a lot too. That'll be so fun.
Oh, I'm excited. I have a whole long list of cases that I want to discuss.
Me too.
And I am just ecstatic to be back on true crime. Even if it's not true, like necessarily true crime related, just, you know, like you said, just discussions about different things. That is what I love. That is what I want, you know, our focus to be on is, you know, because that's what this community is supposed to be about. You know, YouTube is supposed to be an escape, and I'm just so thankful that I have not only you two, but just, you know, the support from everyone and people actually willing to come in and listen to what we have to say.
Absolutely.
I'm grateful and I love it. So
too.
thank you all.
Oh, and then we got you, which I'm so glad you're back. And then Melissa's going hard on her channel. And then we got Recliner Survivors. So we got enough to keep us busy.
Oh yes. And I'm just so excited. I've already got so next we're gonna be working on Jean Benet Ramsey.
Yes.
Which I was so excited when we set up, you know, the group for that last night and decided we were actually going to do it, because I know we had discussed it like several months back. That's finally happening. And then, you know, like you said, the Daybell case, I really want to. There was another one.
You're gonna do Delphi. You're gonna keep going with Delphi too, right?
Yes, and Delphi. There hasn't been any real like updates with that one. But yes, there has. The police are actually supposed to do some sort of press conference sometime this week. I don't know what day, but
Really?
they're going to be doing a press conference. I screenshotted it and I meant to read it, but I have not gone back and read it yet. I got busy. But I do have the picture of it. So.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, thank you, Just Me. And thank you for being here the entire time for everyone. supporting actual true content, because this community has been so, and I even have gotten so lost in all of the nonsense and the drama. So it feels so good to be covering cases again, and these are the cases I love. And I thank Trenda, because this was on my list, but my list is big because there's so many cases that I want to cover and I don't even know where to start. So when she said she was doing this, I'm like, yes, because it's such a good one. And so I'm happy, and this has been amazing.
So
It
we have,
has.
yeah, I love it too. I think it's, I'm just glad you're back, Trenda,
Me
because
too. Me
I was
too.
getting a little worried there for a little bit. I was like, hold on.
Girl, I got her
You
2
guys,
days in a row. Like, I'm
yeah.
happy right now.
So, okay, so we have the John Benet Ramsey, which I'm stoked about that because that takes you down some of them rabbit holes that we like to go down with the whole, um, what do you call it, elites and stuff,
Yep.
and the trafficking and stuff. But Trenda, um, there was another case. Melissa, what was the case that you were asking about the other day? You
And
had the case you did yesterday, but there was another one.
Rebecca Zahow,
Uh-huh.
Kanika Jenkins.
Kanika Jenkins. That's it.
Yeah.
So you got
Also
that
on
one
my
coming
list,
up
I have
too.
Luca Magnotta. I have, what's her name? It starts with a K. Caitlin Laurie. You know the Caitlin Laurie?
You know what?
It's
I told you I didn't know about Rebecca, and I did. So I'm not even going to say. I'll have to look and see.
There's just so many. I have so many cases I want to look into, but now I'm happy because like I got you guys to like just bang out the research group, just one case after another, and like that's what I want to
Yeah.
do, because I just love covering things that make your mind go, huh?
Yeah.
And I like bringing it to people who aren't familiar with it and making their mind go, huh? And then trying to discuss, well, what can we figure out? What's the answers, And that's why I love these cases, because there is no logical answer and it's frustrating. And so, yeah, that's what sucks about these cases is we don't have the answer, but
Yeah.
it's amazing trying to figure it out.
It works too because we all have similar tastes. We like a lot of the same stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
Trendo just kind of fell right in in
Oh,
there, and
yeah. You got
it was just
we got lucky.
love at first sight.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. Oh God, I don't even remember the first case that we actually, or that one of you mentioned a case in the chat, and I was just so excited. And
I think it was Pizzagate we did first.
yes, it
Yep.
was.
Yeah, and then Johnny Gosh.
And there's actually another case that I started reading about. So the Oakland County child killer.
Yes.
That one is another just deep rabbit hole. And that one takes you right back into kind of the same situations that the Johnny Gosh case takes
Yep.
you, Pizzagate, all of them. I'm
Oh,
just
you're gonna have to send me some sources on that because I haven't heard of that one.
You probably have, Britt. Once you start to hear about it and read about it, you'll be like, oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
well, and what makes me sad is that's actually, and I mean, granted, yes, it's Reddit, and you kind of have to take the things you read on there at face value, but there are good sources and good information. Um, that's that's actually, according to some theories, that's actually kind of where the Delphi case is heading into. Is it sounds like not only were the girls catfished, but it was one, whether it be big, small, but there supposedly is a pedophile ring involved somewhere. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying the other night. I don't believe that this Keegan Klein is actually BG or Bridge Guy, but I believe that he may not know the person's true identity, but I do believe that he has been in contact with him and could possibly be the one that he was sharing photos with in his Dropbox.
Hmm. Sorry, was I still able to be heard? Sorry, I left the screen for a second and I wasn't sure if I was still on.
Oh, yeah, you're still here.
Yes. Yeah, see, Delphi isn't one that I don't want to say I didn't get down. Yeah, I was following Delphi, but it wasn't one that I fell deep down.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even bother trying to cover it. One, because you are very passionate about that. But two, I feel like if you weren't following it when it happened, it's not the same, if that makes sense. Because following it in real time makes such a big difference.
It does. And it does make a huge difference. And see, I had never even heard of Delphi until late last year, early this year. So I never followed it from the beginning. But after doing all the research I have done, and I have read as much as I can on it. I mean, every night I go on Reddit or I go on the Facebook groups, because I'm in 2 or 3 of them, and I read to see if there's any sort of updates on it. I actually I remember when everything happened with Chadwell, I actually looked at his Facebook. I scrolled for hours just to get back to 2017, to see what he could have posted around the time of the murders. There's actually a gap in between posts, which I found really interesting because I'm trying to figure out how to word it. So the thing with Chadwell and why I believe that it's a really good possibility that he could be Bridge Guy is he was a loner. His dogs were his best friend. So with as little information that is available, it's very well, and this is just a theory, but if he needed to tell somebody or, was going to run his mouth about what he did, I'd say I'd bet money that he was just telling his dogs.
Yep.
That there wasn't actually physically anyone else there to tell. Not only that, but the DNA or the weird DNA that was found there. Sorry. So the weird DNA that was found on the girls very well could have been a dog's DNA, like fur, or, kind of like what he did with the 9-year-old girl. His dogs attacked her and bit her. Who's to say that he didn't have his dogs down, at the very end of the bridge, force the girls to go down there and, had them waiting.
Right.
I mean, there's just, that's another one where there's so many different possibilities.
That's one that, as someone who's not as invested, I would love to just get on a panel with you and straight up discuss it and ask you questions and have you go through and explain it for me. And basically, so it's not so much, hey, because you already did the presentation of Delphi, but it gives other people a chance like me who, okay, I'm familiar with it, but I don't know the details. And I would love to just ask questions and have you explain it so people could follow along who may be more like me and don't know all the details.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love that.
I'd love that.
I would honestly, I would bring Nasa on to help with that one, because she is my Delphi buddy. Me and her would spend, she's here. Hi, Nace.
Yeah, I was
Really
gonna
was
say
talking about you.
it sounded like she was like your partner on that one for a long time. Like
Oh,
y'all
she
worked together.
was. She was. Especially, and I don't want to bring it up, but especially after we left as mods, we would spend hours just every single night or even throughout the day just discussing, the one case. I mean, we would talk about others, but that was like our go-to. And she was right there with me when all the news about Chadwell came out, and we were both just sending each other just a bunch of stuff. And oh, I miss those days. Oh, I love you too.
You can do it again, Trenda.
But yes,
Get back
I would
into
love
it.
to have a panel like that, and I would definitely have both of you and Nasa come up, and we would just answer any questions you guys have.
I would love that like more than you realize, because I want to be familiar with it. And why pick your brain in the back, in like private chat? Like, I'd rather make a live out of it, because there are people like me who aren't that well familiar with the case. And sometimes you learn better, at least for me with ADD, I learn better in a conversation versus watching like kind of like a timeline presentation. I want to be able to stop. I want to be able to ask questions. I want to ask details. I want to get all the nitty gritty around it. So that would be awesome.
It really would. And see, I'm kind of the same, but I'm also the opposite in a sense. The way I learn, especially when it comes to cases, like, some people do better when they're able to watch videos. Me, I do so much better when I'm able to just read. I love reading.
No, I
And
can't. I have ADD. So once I read a sentence, by the time I get to the end of the sentence, I have to remind myself, crap, pay attention. You didn't read what the sentence says. You read it, but you didn't read it, if that makes sense. So then I have to go back and do it again and again and again. It takes me about 8 to 10 times before I actually absorb that one sentence.
oh, okay, so I was that kid when I was, especially in high school. Don't get me wrong, I did some dumb stuff like any normal teenager would, but I was also that kid that got grounded for reading after, or being caught reading after bedtime. Like, there was one night I was reading the Harry Potter series, and my mom came in and caught me reading after I was supposed to already be in bed
Oh
asleep.
my
And
goodness.
she took my book, and I was grounded for the weekend.
Oh,
because
if that's the worst I did as a kid, read past bedtime, my parents would be much happier than they were.
Like, don't get me wrong, I did some dumb stuff, but I love reading. It's just, that's another passion of mine. And I think that's how I got
That's
into,
why you're so smart,
like,
Trenda.
thank you. But that's why, like, especially today, like I was saying at the beginning, I reread all my notes that I put together for this case, and I can't, and I know you and I have had this discussion before, but we have to, like, you and I have to, like, prepare for lives in totally different ways. You're able to put down, like, notes just to kind of keep you on topic, whereas I have to have it pretty much written out in, like, story format to kind of follow a little bit. And it's so time consuming, and it's so hard. I spent 7.5 hours today preparing for this.
No, but that's the hard part, Trenda, is I like, if you have ever seen, I've shown them on my panels, it's a book of 8 huge notebooks. If I'm okay, so like John Bonet, that's a case that I was thoroughly invested in. That's a case that I could sit here pretty much, and I might get dates wrong and things like that from not knowing off the top of my head, but I'm good. I could present it. But a case like Rebecca, I had to write it basically down sentence by sentence. I can't even take it in a short note format because I still won't remember based on the short notes. But what I said is, when I do it with the notes, I jam up more, even though you think it's easier, right? Just read it, right? Just read it. But no, I become robotic and I become nervous because I don't want to jump ahead of my notes. But it takes a lot. You're right. You have to, even if I do it the same day, you have to give hours and hours and hours to prepare.
Yep. Even for something,
Simple.
even for your trivia lives.
Yep.
It's not as simple as just going through and writing down questions and the answers. No, you have to actually, if you want it to be a really good trivia, you have to take the time and go through and really dig deep to find those good questions.
Yep. I usually, depending on what it is, like say Game of Thrones, I found maybe 30 questions off of a Game of Thrones quiz, and the other, because I have to create about 100 questions per trivia. The other 50 questions I had to create. So it's not as easy as everyone thinks. But yeah, that's exactly, it takes a lot of preparation. So when you go on and you do a case, you want to do it right. And it's funny because you could have 5 hours worth of 10 pages of notes and you could get through those notes within 30 minutes though. It's so short, but as long as you have that timeline, you're okay. And that's what I keep my notes for. As long as I have these notes, then in between what I'm saying with the notes, I could get into specifics and discuss it.
Yeah. I'm not sure on that one. Is he out?
Luke, I do not believe Magnotta is not out. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, we might have to look that one up because I'm not sure on that one.
No, he applied for insanity. Hold on. It is because I was just talking about it earlier and saying I'm going to either do this or Kanika Jenkins next. And he, hold on, Luca Magnotta now is currently at a facility in Quebec where 15 inmates and 15 employees have contracted the virus. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. He married another inmate in 2017.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, he is. God, I hate him. He's so, I hate him.
Yeah, he's definitely something else. I'll say that much. That's putting it nicely.
Oh, just me. You're talking about, there's a guy who decapitated another man on a Greyhound bus and held the Greyhound bus captive. Yes, Nisa, and I watched the entire snuff film. It was really nasty. But he is getting off because mental illness. He pled insanity, but you could actually watch the video of the Greyhound bus being surrounded by police, and this guy sliced off the guy's ear and wiggled the ear in front of the police and stuff. And yeah, it was just such a random killing. This poor kid was just sitting on the bus sleeping on a Greyhound, and this guy just came up and straight up started decapitating him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
Yep, and the guy's out.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. I have to look up the name, just me. Okay, hold on.
I don't even have any words.
Yeah, I remember that. Decapitation. God, if anyone ever looked at my Google searches, I'd be arrested. It's the killing of Tim McLean, who was a 22-year-old Canadian man, was stabbed, beheaded, and cannibalized while riding a Greyhound Canada bus along the Trans-Canada Highway. On March 5th, 2009, McLean's killer, a 40-year-old Chinese-Canadian named Vince Lee, was found not criminally responsible for the murder and was remanded to a high-security mental health facility in Selkirk, Manitoba, where he was detained until his release on May 8th, 2015. Oh, wow, nice. Yeah, he ate part of him, yes. They found, when the cops arrested him, they found part of his remains in the guy's mouth still. Yeah, we were talking about Luca Magnotta at first, just me, and someone got him confused with the Greyhound bus killer. So, yeah, he ate his victim, Nace. Oh my god. Yes, he did. Oh, it's nasty. There goes my dinner. Sorry, Susie.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's why I have DuckDuckGo. And I can just delete everything.
That's smart.
And that's actually how that's not how I find, but that helps with like the going into the deeper rabbit hole searches. So
I've been suggested it before, but I'm really not tech savvy, even though I've been accused of espionage and shit. Like I don't, even if I wanted to use another web browser besides Google, I don't know how to acquire that. Like, what do you go to?
it's actually just an app that you download. Like you go into, well, and you have an iPhone?
Yes, now I do.
Okay, so go into your Apple store and just type in DuckDuckGo, and you can just download it, and it gives you like I don't even know, it shows you how it works, like a tour almost, and then it's just like a normal web browser.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't filter as much?
No, and it actually when you pull up your tabs, there will be like a little like flame emoji thing next to it. You just click on that and it just deletes everything.
Oh, wow. Yo, like, what's sad is I can't find simple things about 9/11 anymore. They're filtered everywhere. Yet I was able to find Luca Magnotta's entire snuff film through Reddit. Typed it into Reddit, like typed it into Google, got a link to Reddit, and with one Reddit thread or whatever, I don't know what you call them, I was able to get a direct link and watch the entire snuff film. But I can't find a simple thing like, 9/11 stuff.
Oh, I know. And that's what I mean, though, is like between DuckDuckGo and Reddit, you can find almost anything on Reddit.
Yep.
And
I got all the celebrity penis pictures. Every celebrity penis pic that's out there is on one whole Reddit page.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
well, it's just like, oh god, I can't even remember the case or the name. The girl that was murdered by she went to the concert and took her friend with
Bianca Devins.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was I was in the Facebook group for a little bit. I jumped on Reddit, started reading through, and I came across like the pictures that he took.
Yeah, I have them.
I had nightmares. Like that is just terrible. Like
I remember her eyes vividly.
Yes. Yeah. I do too, and oh my god.
Yeah. I know. It's awful. Yeah, and what sucks is, and because her mom has spoken out on a lot of platforms, and the fact that they won't take down her social media accounts because like Instagram stuff like has generated so many people following that they're able to advertise. Like all these companies are able to advertise, so they refuse to take down her own social media sites because they're making money off of it, and they couldn't get those photos down, like her own murder photos, like, and it's really sad that the family has to deal with that because they're like, we can't type in like one of our own names onto Google or anything without those photos being pulled up, and it's really sucks.
That's really sad. Like that's unfair to her family, especially I believe she has a little sister.
Mm-hmm.
It just kills me, especially when it comes to big corporations and companies. They are so money hungry that
that's all they care about.
Yeah, they don't care about, how their actions affect others.
Nope. Yeah, it's horrible. They're like, pull this down. It's generating you're making it's blood money. You are making money
Mhm.
off of my daughter's murder. And it's different because I saw her on, like one of our channels, like just a smaller channel, and it makes you realize that, I don't know, like I feel like everybody does this distancing technique when you think of an actor or whoever, a murder victim. I don't want to say you think of them as a celebrity or famous, but you have this distancing technique that you do. But seeing her just on a small platform and talking and explaining this, I realized how real she is, and how she's just like us, and she's so out of control, like she doesn't have this ability. Like she has to resort to coming on smaller platforms, which is fine, it's amazing. But imagine not having that control over your own child's death like that. It's just,
Mhm.
and they're making money. Like if she wants her daughter's Instagram down, take the damn thing down. Don't be sitting there making money revenue off of it.
Oh, exactly. That, yeah, that's not fair to her family.
No.
She doesn't need to be. It's it's one thing if you go to the courts and, like, kind of like what I had to do with the Watts case. I went online, went to the county, requested the files for the case. Um, that should in my opinion, that should honestly be the only way that you should be able to obtain anything about any cases.
I agree.
And I don't feel that it's fair to release any sort of, crime scene pictures are one thing, but if the deceased is not pictured, you know.
Right. I mean, it's a fine line. I understand, as a true crime buff, I understand that crime scene photos are very important.
Mhm.
Um, like even with John Bonet and stuff, I'm looking at those ligature marks. I'm studying everything.
Yeah.
But looking at it from a family's perspective, it's wrong. It's as if it wasn't already devastating enough. You don't want your loved one vulnerable like that and being examined by everyone. So it's a hard line to cross. I get it. Like it's you're teetering the two, but
Yeah.
in regards to Instagram and crap like that, get it the heck down. There's no reason for that.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I was trying to like go and like lead into was it should not be as easy as going on Reddit or going on even just Google to find that stuff.
So simple. The fact that Luca Magnotta's snuff film is still around and accessible like that is ridiculous. But I get it. Once it's up, that's it. There, it's going to be floating around somewhere forever. But I was able to find it way too easily. Put it this way, if I found it and I'm really bad with technology, any kid can find it. That's the problem.
Yes.
Cuz I'm bad with technology. Mm-mm-mm.
Well, exactly. I mean, killer. I can't remember. I read something. I can't remember the exact like number or percentage, but um it's said that you walk past so many like murderers in your lifetime and you don't even realize it. It's really scary to think about.
It is. And what's also another crazy thing to think about is 7 degrees of separation. You and I are connected no more than 7 degrees of separation, meaning you and anyone in this world, the farthest away you are is 7 degrees of separation, meaning my friend, her cousin is friends with this person's aunt who's this person's daughter, blah, 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 that connects to you by 7 different people. You are no more or less connected than 7 degrees of separation from any given person.
That's an interesting thought.
It's not a thought. It's apparently it's real.
Well, no, like that's
I know.
very interesting.
It is.
I didn't know about that, and I've never. God, that gives me so much to think about tonight.
Yeah,
now.
look it up. Look up 7 degrees. Well, I'll put it in like the research group. And Will Smith made a movie about it, but it's based on true. We're all connected by 7 degrees of separation. That's it. Which is, you know, as big as the world is, it makes you realize how small and connected everybody really is.
Okay, Nicole, good night, and thank you. Thank you for coming.
Good night, Nicole. Yes, Nasa, same with the ISIS videos. Yeah, everything is, and that's what makes me nervous is for the kids. Like my daughter, you know, getting to that age soon where they could be going online and looking. And if I could find it, and I'm horrible, like I'm really bad with technology. Like my research skills is as good as typing it into Google and seeing what comes up. That means any kid can find it, and that's not okay.
It's really not, and that kind of brings up God, I was at work one day, and we had gotten off early. I went out to the truck, and I think I can't remember if it was my dad or my sister, but somebody had sent me a link. And you know how my kids, they're getting older, and so they have decided they really like YouTube and going on and watching, you know, the different videos of like kids playing with toys, or my daughter really loves I can't even think of it. But they, you know, anyway, they just really love the different videos that they can find. And this is sad, but I feel more comfortable having them just strictly on normal YouTube compared to kids' YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the simple fact of all those different videos going around. The one that was being put, it would start out at as Peppa Pig, and then it would change to that Momo one where she was telling to go harm themselves or harm others.
Yes.
That is not okay.
No.
And I don't know how, there's some really sick people in this world, because I don't know how anybody could think that's okay.
No. And like I remember my daughter first mentioning Momo like when she was sick, like 2 years ago. Like, and I was like, what the hell? Because I knew Momo because I watch all these paranormal videos and stuff. So I've seen the face and I've seen them come around. But this little girl her mom bought her something at the dollar store. It was like a mirror or some Disney thing. And when she pulled the back off of it, when she pulled like the crappy Dollar Tree back off of it, it was a photo of Momo telling her to kill herself. Like, I don't know who put it in or how that happened. Like, I don't remember the specifics, but I just remember it being at the Dollar Tree and she pulled it off and it was a photo of Momo and saying to kill herself.
It's, yeah, you know, sometimes, you know, as a parent, I mess up, you know, any parent does. And I try my hardest to monitor what my children watch. I definitely make sure they're not allowed to watch certain ones.
Right.
But all it takes is just one moment of getting busy or, you know, trying to take care of other things. It takes one moment to have something like that just pop up, and it's terrifying.
Yep, it is. It's terrifying, is right. But
I just looked at the time. I didn't realize we've been on here this long.
Yeah.
And it's hitting midnight my time.
Yeah, it's 2 a.m. my time.
Oh, goodness. I always forget about the time difference.
I know,
Like,
me too.
I really do.
I know. I'm not good at it. When I go on, I think it's like if I do a 10 p.m. live, I'm like, it's 10 p.m. for everyone who's here, you know? Like, no, it's not.
But I just want to thank you so much, Melissa, for coming up.
Of course, thank you for having me.
And thank you to Brittany.
Yes,
And
Brittany just falls off, guys. If you know Brittany, you know there is no goodbye. She just falls off on and off to eventually where she doesn't come back anymore. That's just Brittany.
And thank you to everyone in chat. It has, oh wow, Nikki, it's 7 a.m. Oh, your day's just getting started.
Yeah, Nikki's the replay queen. If you notice, like in the future as you go through live, she'll be the first to leave a comment and watching the replay. She's the replay queen.
Thank you to everyone. This has been just absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
I have loved being able to come up and just, you know, not only just cover a case, but just to have, you know, conversation. But be ready. Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday, we will be covering the JonBenet case.
Episode 1.
I really want to stream it to both channels.
We can. Absolutely.
So that way, you know, it's on both channels, because I believe we have most of the same subs.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
But just in case there's, you know, that one or two that, you know, aren't on both channels.
Yes.
And then this weekend, I plan on coming up and covering the Daybell case. I could probably recite that one in my sleep.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in the upcoming weeks, there will be plenty of more content coming. So thank you all for coming. I hope you have a great night, or those who are just starting their day, have a great day. And at this point in time, I don't have anything planned between now and Wednesday, but maybe I'll come on and just do a chit chat live. It just kind of depends. But have a good evening.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, and thank you again. Goodbye.